Sunday morning, I heard the preacher say, "Thou shalt not kill." I don't wanna hear nothing else about killing and how it's God's will. Our children are watching us. They put their trust in us. They're gonna be like us. So let's learn from our history and do it differently. I hope for more love, for joy and laughter. I hope we'll have more than we ever need. I hope we can have more happy ever afters. I hope we can all live more fearlessly, and we can lose all the pain and misery. I hope. Oh, Rosie, her man gets too rough, and all she can say is he's a good man, he don't mean no harm, he was brought up that way. When our children are watching us, they put their trust in us. They're gonna be like us. It's okay for us to disagree. We can work it out. Love and I hope for more joy and laughter. I hope we will have more than we'll ever need. I hope you'll have more happy ever after. I hope we can all live more fearlessly, and you can lose all the pain and misery. I hope there must be a way to change what is going on. No, I don't have all the answers, but I hope for more love, for joy and laughter. I hope we'll have more than we ever need. I hope you'll have more happy ever afters. I hope we'll all live more fearlessly, and we can lose all the pain and misery. I hope, and we can lose all the pain and misery. I hope too.
Good morning. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Today's invocation is also a prayer that the words of the prophet Isaiah remain true in our hopes and in our dreams, both now and for eternity. You know, the book of Isaiah is a beautiful example of God's strength and the promises he gave his people, especially when they needed them. This is from the 25th chapter, verses 6 through 9. The translation is from the New International Version. On the mountain, the Lord Almighty will prepare a feast of rich food for all peoples, a banquet of aged wines, the best of meats and the finest of wines. On this mountain he will destroy the shroud that enfolds all peoples, the sheet that covers all nations. He will swallow up death forever. The sovereign Lord will wipe away the tears from all faces. He will remove his people's disgrace from all the earth. The Lord has spoken. In that day they will say, surely this is our God. We trusted in him, and he saved us. This is the Lord. We trusted in him. Let us rejoice and be glad in his salvation. And may God add his blessing to this reading of his holy word. Amen.
I'd like to invite you all to stand right now and offer each other a sign of peace. And please stay standing. We're going to sing a little bit. Lyrics are in your bulletin this morning, not up on the screen, I don't think. We sing darkness. Darkness cannot drive out darkness till every child, woman, and man lights. Only light can drive out darkness. Only light can, yeah. Only light can. Hate cannot drive out hate till every child, woman, and man. Only love drive out hate. Only love can. Only love can. We must be the change. We must be the change we want to see. We must be the change. We must be the change we want to see. We must be the change. We'll sing darkness again. Darkness cannot drive out darkness till every child, woman, and man. Only light can drive out darkness. Only light can. Only light can. Hate cannot drive out hate till every child, woman, and man. Only love drive out hate. Only love can. Only love can. Yeah, yeah. We must be the change we want to see. We must be the change. We must be the change we want to see. We must be the change. Yeah. must be the change we want to see. We must be the change, yeah. And we must be the change we want to see. We must be the change. Awesome singing. That was great. You can have a seat.
Jonathan Sacks was the chief rabbi of the United Hebrew Commonwealth in Great Britain. As such, he served as the spiritual head of Jewry in the United Kingdom. He was knighted by the Queen of England for services to the community and interfaith relations. And former Prime Minister Tony Blair described him as that rarest of men, a giant who combines huge intellectual gifts, immense human compassion, and extraordinary ability. Chief Rabbi Lord Sacks writes, "In a world without forgiveness, evil begets evil, harm generates harm, and there is no way short of exhaustion or forgetfulness of breaking that sequence. Forgiveness breaks the chain. It introduces into the light of interpersonal encounter the unpredictability of grace. It represents a decision not to do what instinct and passion urge us to do. It answers hate with a refusal to hate, animosity with generosity. Few more daring ideas have ever entered the human situation. Forgiveness means that we're not destined endlessly to replay grievances of yesterday. It's the ability to live with the past without being held captive by that same past. It would not be an exaggeration to say that forgiveness is the most compelling testimony to freedom. It's about the action and not the reaction. It's the refusal to be defined by a circumstance. Forgiveness truly represents our ability to change course, to reframe the narrative of the past, and create an unexpected gift of possibilities for our future."
Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? Been out riding fences for so long now. Oh, you're a hard one, I know, but you've got your reasons. These things that are pleasing you can hurt you somehow. Oh, the Queen of Diamonds, boy, she'll beat you if she's able. You know the Queen of Hearts is always your best bet. It seems to me some fine things just a minute. Take some time to relax and be aware of your own heartbeat. Aware of your breathing. And aware of those sitting around you. And how welcome we all are. All of us here in this place of peace. There's goodwill here. There's hope here. There's energy. Can you feel it? This time, this place where we are all together is full of possibility. Think about a desperado coming to his or her senses, deciding to make a change, to take a risk, to find a place at that table that Isaiah wrote about. I'm mindful of just how much courage, how much trust and hope, how much give and take is required of all of us to live together in peace. And I wonder what might happen today. What might happen today to make the table of peace more possible in our lives? I wonder what fences we'll have to come down from. I wonder if we'll help each other get down off of those fences so that with all of our differences, we could be together in peace. I wonder if we can find a little more sympathy. I wonder if we could let that sympathy grow into empathy so that we reach out and welcome the stranger and the lonely ones. I wonder. There's goodwill here. There's hope here. And we're full of possibility.
Was burning alive whenever you walked in the room. It happened so quickly, I was feeling so sickly, like a lover who lost his muse. The sharks in the tank, the man in the bank, he wants my money to loan. I can't understand the hell this is playing. He ain't even got a home, ain't got a home. Street with the holes in her feet looks through the eyes of a cloud. She don't look amazed, she's feeling kind of sad, so I just walk around. I reset, she's down on her luck, she's reading a book of lies. I don't know when I'll be coming home, baby, but I sure can sympathize, can sympathize. Can sympathize, yeah. Angels spread their wings on all the dirty things you do. Drops to the floor, head's by the door, the Bible is by her side. Heaven is calling, the new world is falling. She ain't got a single person left to confide. No bonds to confide. No bonds to confide. No bonds to confide. I sympathize. Can sympathize.
Okay, so Charles and Tom don't ever get to brag on the band because they're in it, but boy, I can. These guys. Some of my friends have been nice enough to say, wow, I'm excited for you to get to, do this thing on Sunday morning. And I just got to say, I'm so excited. This is the closest I'm ever going to get to being in the band. They're just so cool. And when I asked, Brad about these songs that I hoped would fit with what I wanted to say, of course, I knew they would make it happen because you guys are the bomb. So thank you. Those words from Isaiah's vision that Buzz read, as well as the words from Rabbi Sachs. I mean, isn't that the stuff of wild hope? I mean, really. Beautiful. But stuff of wild hope. I mean, nations sitting down together, side by side at this table of peace that has been set. Quite frankly, it seems impossible, doesn't it? I mean, for as long as we've been writing history or carving hieroglyphs on the wall, it's been about war. War characterizes us as much as skin and bones characterizes us. And so when you read words like that, it's beautiful and soaring and wonderful, and it seems like wild hope. Or maybe it seems like something that's out there somewhere. And yet, Isaiah and Rabbi Sachs, they're some of the many people who throughout history have believed, hoping against hope, believing in things that are implausible, if not impossible. They believed anyway. And sometimes their hopes have been realized. I have a great book called No Enemy to Conquer. Don't you love that title? It's a collection of stories put together by Michael Henderson, who is a freelance journalist, and he's gone all over the world to collect the stories of people who have found their courage to open the gate, to try to end hatred, so that perhaps there could be a path to peace and reconciliation and forgiveness. I love the book, and I wanted to tell you today some of the stories from it. He writes about Dr. Judea Pearl. Dr. Pearl is the father of Daniel Pearl, who was the Wall Street Journal reporter who was murdered by Pakistani terrorists in the early 2000s. You may remember that as a further act of terrorism, the murderers sent the video of his beheading to television stations all over the world. And we saw those images day after day after day. After that happened, Dr. Pearl, who was Jewish, he's also a computer scientist and a philosopher, he got together with Dr. Akbar Ahmed, and he is a professor at UCLA, I think, and a former Pakistani diplomat. They got together for a series of public dialogues for the purpose of advancing the understanding between Muslims and Jews. Now, Dr. Pearl was forthright. His first goal was not forgiveness. His goal, he said, was to end the hatred that killed his son. He said, I'm choosing my weapon of revenge, and it is dialogue. And so through these public discourses, dialogues, both men and their audiences gained critical understanding of the unexamined prejudices, of the ignorance that perpetuates violence and terrorism on and on throughout the ages. And they admitted out loud that both sides, both faiths, and here I must add the Christian faith, we have historically, all of us, been perpetrators of bloodshed. Daniel's wife, Mary Ann, was 5 months pregnant when he was killed. And she said that she believes that dialogue is more courageous than killing somebody. More courageous than killing somebody, to speak out. And she said revenge is our basic instinct, but rising above that instinct is, of course, the sign of true strength. She also wrote about all the people, thousands of people sent her emails and letters to comfort her, to send words of peace. And this really did comfort her sorrowful soul and renewed her hope in the goodness of humanity. And she said, if we overcome terrorism and violence, it will be because I know there are millions of people who are more kind and good. And so she was left with hope. The book also tells the story of two women, Zelga and Helga. Their names do have to rhyme. So I call them Zella and Helga, because if I don't, I get very confused. They were descendants of survivors of the Holocaust, but they were survivors from either side. They formed an organization called One by One. And that name was taken from a book about the Holocaust that said, we must remember that the Holocaust was not 6 million. It was 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. And civilization must determine to defend the one who's being mistreated. Everybody in this organization, One by One, is a descendant either of a survivor of the Nazi atrocities or a survivor of a perpetrator or a person who stood by and did nothing while the millions were slaughtered. And these two women, Zella and Helga, are testimony to the anguish that remains even a generation and more after those terrible days of our history. Helga found out after World War II that her father, whom she thought was a soldier in the Nazi army, was really a Gestapo chief, and he was responsible for the deaths of 40,000 men, women, and children. When she found this out, she was devastated, and in fact, she had a mental breakdown. She would lock herself in her house for days and weeks on end. She would have nightmares. And she envisioned people punishing her, and she said, I thought I deserved to be punished for what my father had done. Zella was a descendant of a survivor of a concentration camp, and her father spent a lot of time telling her and her siblings as they grew up, we must never forget what Hitler has done. And who can blame him for not wanting that to be forgotten? And yet the outcome for her, being inundated with these stories throughout her childhood, is that she too became mentally ill. She had to go through years of therapy to try to overcome the hate and the anger that lived in her soul. Well, these two women happened to be invited to come over to Boston from Germany, where they were still living. They were invited to come to Boston for a 5-day meeting for the purpose of allowing these survivors, these descendants of survivors, to encounter each other. Now, Helga was really scared because, remember, she's the survivor of a perpetrator, and she just really didn't know she'd ever get on the plane, much less walk in the door of the meeting, but she did. She found her way in, and everyone was gathered, and everyone was to begin sharing their feelings and their experiences. When her turn came, she was tongue-tied. She just couldn't speak. She was very nervous. She was crying. The woman sitting next to her was Zella, and she patted Helga's hand, and she said, go ahead, try to speak. And so she finally did, and she said, I so hoped that I would be safe here with you because I wanted to tell you that I have suffered along with you, knowing what my people did to yours. Well, Helga was so moved by this. She was so moved by it that she stood up and she held on to Helga's hand and she said, I am here to say that Hitler has failed. He has failed because he can no longer make me hate you. And so these women began their journey of putting together groups that would meet together to talk about their feelings and experiences and to build bridges toward healing. They also, like Dr. Pearl and Dr. Ahmed, spent time educating young people about the end of hatred. And so, those are just two of the amazing stories I found in that book. But I want to tell you that nobody, no person in the book, no story pretends that forgiveness and reconciliation are easy. Nobody's acting like that. Dialogue plays a really big part in the book, and it's a big theme, but nobody pretends that dialogue is the same as forgiveness, or that coming to understanding is the same as excusing. In fact, woven throughout those stories, and again, there are many of them, are essays by scholars and therapists who talk about forgiveness in terms of journey, in terms of process, about hard work, about steps forward and steps backward, and about what forgiveness is and is not. But it seems important in this book that everybody is interested in the idea that dialogue can be a path to the end of hatred. And then happily, sometimes on that path, is forgiveness and reconciliation. You know, forgiveness gets a really bad rap, and here's why. Because a lot of people think it means you're just going to be a doormat. A lot of people think forgiveness means we're just going to sort of, sweep everything under the rug. We're going to let people get off scot-free, that, there's not a real big interest in justice because you really can't get there anyway. Well, those things might take place, but that is not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness has an image problem. And that's why I think it's important to think first about dialogue and about how crucial it is to begin to think about ending hate with our words. Dialogue does the painful work of exposing problems. Problems, don't go away if we just nurse our feelings about them. So it is painful work, even though sometimes I think that the news media kind of overplays stories and maybe gives more heat than light. On the other hand, I'm so grateful for the conversation. I'm so grateful for attempts to hear both sides. I'm so grateful for the probing, the questioning, because I think in there somewhere is a way to understanding. So I guess you could say I kind of have a wild hope about dialogue. So what then would be healthy and healing dialogue? Well, it'd be a lot of things, of course, but maybe first is willingness. We all know the temptation, don't we, to be desperados, to just stay the course we're on, because it's too hard. And I'm not going to change, and you're not going to change, and why bother? We know that temptation. So willingness is the first thing, and it's okay if we have to help each other get to that place of willingness. It's okay. Can't make anybody, can't will anybody, but we sure can encourage each other toward that willingness. And then we're going to need to understand that this is going to be painful. As I said, forgiveness and reconciliation, they have kind of a bad image because people act like it's simple when in fact it's difficult, it's complex, it's painful. The issues of reconciliation are many, and no one should pretend that it's easy. So we have to bear up under the pain of listening to each other, and the problem is we're going to probably hear some things we don't want to hear. So it's painful and hard work. It's also important to realize that we are in the present, not in the past. And what I mean by that is sometimes we think that the person or the other or that group out there is the enemy. But I wonder if a better way to think about that is it's the undealt with past that is the enemy. Doesn't that make more sense? We circle each other, glaring at each other, or the enemy. It's the past. It's the brooding over what has happened that is our enemy, not the person right in front of us. So in healthy and healing dialogue also, we have to realize that we will be committed to taking care of ourselves, because as I said, forgiveness is not about being doormats. But even while we hold on to that commitment to take care of ourselves, we can also hold on to the commitment to find common ground wherever it is. And I admit that sometimes common ground means that we are going to part ways. But my hope is that we could do that without violence and animosity. I'm not Pollyanna. I know that these things are not always possible, but I'm pretty sure they're impossible unless we hope for them. So I have one more story for you. I love this story. It inspires me, but it also breaks my heart a little bit. It points up the great crying need that there is for reconciliation. Ernest Hemingway, in his short story, The Capital of the World, wrote about a father's dubious attempt to find his estranged son. So he took out an ad in the local paper that said, "Paco, meet me at the Hotel Montoya tomorrow at noon. All is forgiven. Papa." Now, apparently, Paco was a very common name in Madrid, because the next day, 800 young men, 800 young men stood in the courtyard of the Hotel Montoya, all hoping it was their father looking for his son. So I wonder, how many people do you think are out there who would like reconciliation, but they don't know what the words are? How many people are out there wishing they could come home, but they're not sure where to start? I think 800 is a low estimate. So I hope that as people of peace, we'll start the ball rolling. God be with you.
It's time to bring your offering to the table if you have that. And we also want you to sing this song with us. The lyrics are in the bulletin as well. Here we go. Let the river run, let all the dreamers wake the nation. Come, the New Jerusalem. Oh yeah, we the greatest star, stand on a star and blaze a trail of desire.
I'm good on one. Lynn, do you have something to share with us? Oh, he's giving money. I need to tell you a couple of things. First, she's not here today, but our very own Ann Diamond, who goes to 1111. Look at this. She's the president of the Tarrant Bar Association. So when you see her next week, tell her yay, and we might say that again next week too. Yeah.
I did, actually. I didn't think I did, but...
Am I supposed to do this funky thing that you and Charles always do?
I did want to say, coming up this fall and beyond, there's something called Circles of Trust. In reading a book called Hidden Wholeness, The Hidden Wholeness, which I think just goes beautifully what you've shared today. So I just want to say that.
Okay, thank you for that. The Church News has lots of news. One of it is we're going to have a resale shop, and there's a day when there's a time you can come here and actually see the stuff and buy it. It's August the 3rd from 9 to 1. There's information about it at a table right over there in the Welcome Center. You can buy a ticket. This will be kind of fun. I've seen some of the clothes, and this benefits the mission, so we're glad about that. So let's hold hands. Well, here we go. It's Sunday. Monday's coming. We're going to go out there and make peace. The Lord be with you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and give you peace. Amen.
Sunday morning, I heard the preacher say, "Thou shalt not kill." I don't wanna hear nothing else about killing and how it's God's will. Our children are watching us. They put their trust in us. They're gonna be like us. So let's learn from our history. Do it differently. I hope for love, for joy and laughter. We'll have more than we ever need. We'll have more happy ever afters. We can all live more fearlessly, and we can lose all the pain and misery. I hope, oh Rosie, her man gets too rough, and all she can say is he's a good man, he don't mean no harm, he was brought up that way. Our children are watching us, they put their trust in us, they're gonna be like us. It's okay for us to disagree. We can work it out lovingly. I hope for joy and laughter. You'll have more than we'll ever need. We'll have more happy ever afters. You can all live more fearlessly, and you can lose all your pain and misery. I hope there must be a way to change what is going on. No, I don't have all the answers, but I hope for more love, more joy, and more laughter. You'll have more than we ever need. You'll have more happy ever afters. We can all live more fearlessly, and we can lose all the pain and misery. I hope, and we can lose all the pain and misery.
Those are sweet shoes, my friend. They're patented. Travis on the drums, y'all.